stupid to admit that out loud. Basically, aren't you just admitting that you were a skank for money? Like, if it was really a big deal, you're like, oh, God, the male gaze, they're sexualizing me. It's all, why would you take the role then?
I think it's just shocking the disgusting misogynistic way that Andrew can't help but talk about women. I mean I would say also, by
Amen.
the way,
That's because of choices that women make. That's because of the number of hours that they work. That's because women take maternity leave. That's because guys work more hours and work harder. There's a whole bunch of reasons we can get into that relate to
We
that.
can,
But
Joe, would you complain and say, oh, the male gaze is so terrible, and then take the role as a woman? Why would you take the role if the male
she
gaze
should
is such
just
a
own
problem
it.
for
She
money?
should just own it.
Gee, who could have predicted this? Who could have predicted that women who are in positions of power may act overtly emotional just based on, well, even the hormones in their body? I am so stunned. I'm shocked. I can't believe that women.
All right, so we've got Piers Morgan bringing up Scarlett Johansson, apparently the highest grossing movie star of all time. And she's out here complaining about the roles she took that made her all that money. Like, think about that for a second. You made hundreds of millions being a sex symbol, playing into the male gaze, and now you want to act like you were some victim? And then, and this is where it gets absolutely wild, we've got the UK's first female Chancellor of the Exchequer literally crying on camera during Prime Minister's questions. Just full-on emotional breakdown in front of the entire country. So buckle up, because Andrew Wilson is about to absolutely demolish the people defending this stuff, and the reactions from the other side are genuinely insane. Let's get into it.
Later on, women don't get paid as much as men. In fact, it's just been revealed by the Hollywood Reporter, the Hollywood Bible, that the biggest grossing movie star ever is Scarlett Johansson, which I'm told, staggering though that may seem, and I'm a bit surprised myself because I've appeared in 10 movies as myself, and those movies have grossed $2.4 billion. So I'm a little surprised I'm not in the mix myself. However, she's bigger than Tom Cruise, bigger than Stallone, bigger than Schwarzenegger, bigger than all of them. And the reason apparently is the Avengers. She's been in the whole Avengers stuff, which obviously, and Jurassic Park and other huge grossing films. But she's moaning, as obviously, you know, when you get an accolade like this, the first thing to do is to complain about it, that she's often been cast for sexist reasons. So Andrew, I'll come to you on this. When promoting, I think, Jurassic Park, Jurassic Park Rebirth movie came out this weekend. She said, when I was younger, a lot of the roles I was offered or I went for had their ambitions or character arcs revolving around their own desirability or the male gaze or a male-centered story. That's less frequent, though. Something has shifted. I mean, this idea that we might go to the movies to look at beautiful people, that males may gaze at beautiful women. Is this the most shocking bombshell of the week, Andrew?
Also, it's not just that. Like, how stupid to admit that out loud. Basically, aren't you just admitting that you were a skank for money? Like, if it was really a big deal, you're like, oh, God, the male gaze, they're sexualizing me. It's all, why would you take the role then? Just don't take the role. But apparently, if it pays good enough, she must not mind too much about that whole male gaze thing, huh? Because when it came time for her to collect those millions of dollars based on the male gaze, she definitely took the role. So I would like her to give an explanation for that. Male gaze bad, but I like to contribute to it as much as possible for money. Aren't you just basically admitting that you're a Hollywood prostitute at that point? Like, if it's a conflict with your values, aren't you selling out for money, literally?
Well,
like,
Taylor, your eyebrows just nearly exploded,
prostitution?
so clearly you don't agree with that.
I think it's just shocking the disgusting misogynistic way that Andrew can't help but talk about women. I mean I would say also, by the way,
a woman?
no, women generally
A
seem
woman?
to have.
No, I'm sorry. It's not a monolith. If I can critique a woman,
God,
that's not critiquing
let me-
all
you're
women.
not
You see how that
letting a
works?
woman
Thinking
right
all
now.
libs, the whole show.
Yeah.
All libs.
No, these libs. These libs are
Guys,
not all
I'm
libs. You see how
not
that
a lib.
works?
Oh my God, it's so crazy how
Oh,
all
yes,
you
you're
guys.
a lib, lady.
Everyone that
Oh, yeah.
doesn't like, you don't
You just
like
so
is a
happen to
little
be liberal on every social policy, but you're not a liberal. Huh?
Liberals are hardly where I'm at on social issues. Anyway, my point is that Scarlett Johansson, Piers, I don't know that I would classify that quote as moaning. What she seems to be talking about is just how her roles have changed over time. I would note that overwhelmingly women are paid less than men, even though the highest actress might be paid as a woman. But I think that what she's saying is it's not a myth that women are paid less. I'm sorry.
Equal pay myth that we can, I mean, that's a whole separate conversation.
I think in Hollywood now it's pretty well equal pay, isn't it? If you get the big roles, I don't think.
Well, I think,
in music, most of the biggest stars now are currently women, aren't they? Beyonce, Taylor Swift.
Right, but
I mean,
I
don't know. I can't think of many industries where women are not actually paid at least or more than men.
Just because there are a few very high-paid women in entertainment industries doesn't mean that women across the board make more than men. And when you look at other industries like finance or tech or some of these other,
that's because listen, Taylor, this is nonsense. That's because of choices that women make. That's because of the number of hours that they work. That's because women take maternity leave. That's because guys work more hours and work harder. There's a whole bunch of reasons we can get into that relate to that.
We actually can adjust it for parity easily.
Can I make a comment about Scarlett, though, here for a second? Because I think what's interesting here is that, listen, she made all of her money being a sex symbol, right? She always had the boobs out. That's how she made her money. She made the decision to accept roles where, yes, she was, part of the male gaze. And that's how she made her fame. I find it really interesting, honestly, that she turns 40. She's older. And now all of a sudden she decides, oh, I'm going to negate all that. Could it be that maybe she's, the male gaze isn't looking at her
the wall
in the
is
same way
undefeated.
anymore. She's not getting those roles anymore. And she's now realizing there's a younger woman on the block. There's a hotter woman on the block. Okay, I'm not getting those roles. So
and by the way, to complete
I made all my money.
To complete the conspiracy theory, is that why Charlize Theron, at the age of 50, has gone out doing podcasts talking about banging 26-year-old guys? Could that be why? Is it to make Hollywood think I'm still hot and desirable?
I've still got it. I've still got it.
I've still got the young male gaze.
Of course, because there is an insecurity, and women don't like to talk about this, but there is an insecurity that arises in women, particularly in a beauty-driven industry. Hollywood is all about looks. It's all about the female gaze, the male gaze. You see,
it's misogyny that puts that pressure on women.
That's not hatred of women. Taylor, do you know what misogyny means? It means hatred of women. It is not hatred of women to talk about the reality that women, I'm a woman, I'm not a misogynist. Women get more insecure as they age about their looks when they're in a beauty-driven industry. That's why Botox exists. That's why filler exists.
Well, let me go to the expert on the panel when it comes to male gazes at beautiful women. Ernest, your thoughts on this?
No, I mean, to be honest, I think that two things can be true at the same time. People have the right to evolve and also see things reflectively. What you do in your young age, I mean, heaven forbids. I mean, you all claim that you all don't support cancel culture, but, a lot of you all would make the case that maybe she did at one point in time when she was younger, may have thought that's what she needed to do and that's how she got her career. But maybe years later, she can get older and reflect and say, hey, some of the stuff I did back then.
And by the way, Ernest, it's the same. It's the same with men, right? I mean, it's the same with male movie stars. When they cross a point where the female gaze moves from them to a younger, hotter model. It's exactly the same the other way around. You look at it all the time. Look at the hot movie male stars of 20 years ago. They're not there anymore.
Right, but the difference is, though, with those roles, that's actually not true all the way. A lot of these older men do get to evolve.
Okay, so let me just break down what we just watched here, because this is textbook grift behavior, and nobody on that panel, except Andrew and Jedediah, actually want to call it out. Scarlett Johansson made her entire career, her entire fortune, off of being a sex symbol. That's just facts. She chose those roles. She took the money, she cashed the checks. And now, conveniently, right around the time she hits 40 and those roles aren't coming to her anymore, she decides the male gaze was always the problem. Like, dude, the timing is so obvious, it's actually hilarious. And look, Andrew nailed this point. If the male gaze is such a moral problem for you, why did you take the role? Just don't take it. Go do indie films. Go do character work. But no, she didn't do that. She took the massive paychecks for being the hot girl in the Avengers suit, made generational wealth, and then turned around and acted like she was oppressed the whole time. It's so disingenuous, man. And then you've got Taylor and Ernest on the other side trying to frame this as well. People evolve, and she needed to survive. Survive? She was getting paid millions of dollars per movie. This isn't survival. This is making a calculated business decision and then retroactively pretending it was imposed on you. That's called rewriting history to fit a narrative. Here's what really happened, and Jedediah touched on this too. Scarlett's not getting those sex symbol roles anymore because Hollywood has moved on to the younger, hotter version. So now the play is to pivot into the woke feminist lane and act like she was always uncomfortable with it. It's a rebrand, it's PR, and the fact that people are defending it just shows you how easily audiences get played. Ernest tried to make this whole comparison about how men can do both the prestige films and the sex symbol roles, and women can't. But that's not even true. Charlize Theron did it, Angelina Jolie did it, Halle Berry did it. You can absolutely do both if you're talented and smart about your career. But if you choose to lean heavily into one side for the money, you don't get to complain about it later when it stops working for you. And the pay gap argument Taylor tried to throw in there? Dude, that's been debunked so many times it's not even worth addressing. Women in Hollywood who carry films make just as much as men. Scarlett Johansson is literally proof of that. She's the highest grossing movie star ever. So what pay gap are we even talking about here? I know you guys already see through this. I know that you don't need me to explain why this is ridiculous. But the fact that this even has to be a conversation shows you how much of the mainstream narrative is built on feelings instead of facts. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you think Scarlett should just own the fact that she made her money off her looks and stop complaining? Or do you actually buy the whole "I evolved and now I regret it" angle? Because I genuinely don't know how anyone watches this and doesn't see the obvious grift.
A lot of these older men do get to evolve and date younger women. What we don't see that much in Hollywood.
No, I mean female moviegoers going to see male movie stars. The reason they go moves from the female gaze at a hot young movie star to something different when they get older, right? So it's in other words, it works the same way.
But that's not the same, though. They can get a range. What I think that happened with Scarlett Johansson, a lot of these actresses, is that what you'll see with men is that they can do both. They can do the Oscar-winning Leonardo DiCaprio films, and they can also do the sex symbol films. They can also do it simultaneously and still get the awards. Versus what we see with women in Hollywood, it seems to be a double standard where prestige films that they can be in and star in, oftentimes they don't get the chance to be the ingenue or play into the sex role. But if they do go that way, they can't have both ways. So Denzel could be both. But Scarlett Johansson couldn't do both most of that.
Okay,
yeah, but why? Okay, but why would you complain then? Why would you complain and say, "Oh, the male gaze is so terrible," and then take the role as a woman? Why would you take the role if the male gaze is such a problem for money?
She should just own it.
Hang on. Let him answer the question. Why is it that if you really saw this as a problem from a feminist view, the male gaze, as a female actress who's aspiring, why would you take the role? Aren't you just selling out for money, dude?
I mean, I'm not a woman, so I'm not the one taking the role, but I'm saying something like I'm saying before.
See how they don't answer any questions? They just refuse to.
No, I'm answering your question. Did you not let me finish? I'm answering your question. What I'm saying is that you, at the end of the day, it's none of these things, like even the way that people vote for certain elected officials, it's never one size fit all. She has survival. She wanted to get her career. She wanted to do certain things. Does she have regrets? I don't know. But what I will say is that there's a lot of factors that people do when they make their decisions, right? There's certain people where you don't agree with everything on all aspects, but you do some. And I think at a certain point,
Ernest, I hear what you're saying, Ernest. It just seems a little convenient, though. It just seems a little convenient to make all of your money off of being a sex symbol and an overt sex symbol. I mean, half naked, this, that. You make all your money that way. You should own it. She should be coming out and saying,
I totally agree. I think I think that the women I admire in the entertainment world are the ones who are smart but are unafraid to say, I use my sex appeal and it makes me tons of money, as well as my smarts, as well as my talent. It's a whole package. Same with the guys, right? If you're a hot movie star who's got talent, you're going to make more money than an ugly one. It's as simple as that. It's not fair. Life isn't fair.
Hollywood's not fair.
I want to end. This was a bizarre moment last week in the House of Commons here in the United Kingdom. So just for background, we have a woman called Rachel Reeves, who is the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, so the second most powerful person in the British government, the treasurer, if you like, of the United Kingdom. And she did the one thing which I guess most women who had voted for her would have wished she hadn't done, which is at the weekly Prime Minister's questions with Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, she was openly crying in the background. Now, this followed a very bad week for the government, a very bad week for her. One of the signature policies that had to perform a big U-turn on. She apparently been seen having a blazing row with some colleagues and with the Speaker of the House. She then came out the next day grinning like a Cheshire cat, a little too much for my credible belief, and said that there was a personal issue going on, the details of which have not emerged, and I suspect they won't. Andrew, the problem I have with this is that I think a lot of women will have felt let down, that you finally get a female Chancellor of the Exchequer, and within a few months she's crying in the most high-profile televised moment of each week in the House of Commons, and it looks like it's just because she had a bad week.
Well, gee, who could have predicted this? Who could have predicted that women who are in positions of power may act overtly emotional just based on, well, even the hormones in their body? I am so stunned. I'm shocked. I can't believe that women everywhere are stunned and shocked that women, when they become very emotional, begin crying. It's no shock to me, of course. No shock to anybody else on
Let
this
me ask
panel.
you.
So let's wrap this one up, because there's actually two separate but related things happening in this video, and both of them prove the exact same point. First, you've got Scarlett Johansson, the literal highest grossing movie star of all time, complaining about the roles that made her rich and famous. And the only people on that panel willing to call it out for what it is are Andrew and Jedediah. Andrew's point was surgical. If the male gaze is such a problem, why did you take the role? Just don't take it. But she did take it over and over again for hundreds of millions of dollars. And now she wants sympathy for it. It's absurd. And then you've got the UK situation with Rachel Reeves, the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, literally crying on camera during Prime Minister's questions because she had a bad week. And Andrew's reaction to that was perfect too. Who could have predicted that women in high-pressure positions might act overtly emotional? Like, it's not even controversial to point that out. It's just observable reality. But of course, saying it out loud gets you labeled a misogynist. Here's the thing, and this is what drives me insane about these conversations. You're not allowed to critique women without being accused of hating all women. Andrew critiqued Scarlett Johansson for being a hypocrite. That's not misogyny, that's just calling out hypocrisy. Taylor tried to pull that "you're critiquing all women" card, and Andrew shut it down immediately. If I critique a woman, that's not critiquing all women. You see how that works? That's the playbook on the left. They can't defend the actual behavior, so they just accuse you of bigotry and hope you back down. But Andrew didn't back down. Jedediah didn't back down. And that's why they dominated this conversation. Ernest and Taylor spent the whole time trying to justify and excuse behavior that is objectively ridiculous. She needed to survive. People evolve. It's not one size fits all. Dude, just admit that she sold out for money and now she's trying to rewrite the story. That's all this is. It's not complicated. And the funniest part? Taylor's sitting there defending Scarlett Johansson while simultaneously denying she's a lib. Like, you just so happen to be liberal on every single social policy, but you're not a liberal? Okay, sure. That's totally believable. Look, the reason people like Andrew and Jedediah win these debates is because they're willing to say what everyone watching is already thinking. They don't hedge, they don't play the well both sides game, they just call it like they see it. And in a media environment where almost everyone is afraid to speak plainly, that's refreshing. So here's the verdict. Andrew and Jedediah won this one. Not even close. They had clear arguments, they backed them up with logic, and they didn't let the other side gaslight them into pretending obvious contradictions aren't contradictions. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is what we do here at MB. We cut through the BS and say what needs to be said. Stay sharp. I'll see you in the next one.